Okay, new one for today. I just got home and I got a new boat. Just kidding, not my boat. It's my buddy's boat, and he needs some bearings put in. So today we're going to show you how to install bearings on a trailer. Looks like it's got seals, races, and a new bearing buddy. We're going to pull it in the shop, take it apart, show you how it's done. All right, we got it back into the shop, kind of. Bottoming out over there. Got it jacked up. When you jack anything up, always remember to put a jacks underneath it. If it falls off, it happens, and you don't want the axle and the hub and wheel to all hit the ground. 19 millimeter socket. Let's buzz them off. All right, get our dust cap off. And rubber mallet or hammer and tap that out. Actually, the grease fitting is off. It's just laying in here. Okay. All right, let's grab another tool and we'll be back. All right, let's see if we can tap this bearing buddy off. When I'm doing this, I'm kind of hitting towards me so it doesn't just beat up the hub, the bearing buddy. Rotating it as I go. Alright, there's the bearing buddy. Clean some of this grease off here. I don't think there's no play in these, but he wants them done, so we're going to do it. Alright, get some dikes. There's a cotter pin in here that holds your castle nut on. Straighten this out best you can. And then you should be able to just tap it out. At least enough to grab the end of it with your dikes. And pull it out. There's that. We'll break loose our castle nut. Which is already hand tight, which is good. You have a nut, and you have a washer. And you got the bearing. These bearings look fairly decent to me. Alright, we're going to get over the bitch, take it apart, and go from there. Okay, so one thing you do want to make sure you got a clean space. You don't want dirt and stuff getting in here. I don't feel any grooves on the races, which is good. And there they came. A few little taps, and it knocked them out. Probably didn't get that on camera. And the good thing is they didn't hit the floor. So these are our inside bearings, which is going to be the larger one. Get these cleaned up. Try to clean it up the best you can. Like I said, just make sure there's not any burrs on the races, metal shavings, dirt, anything that's going to cause it to cut a groove into the metal. You're going to get dirty when you do this, so just expect it. Got that side fairly clean. Alright, now we're going to pack our bearings. Find my grease. These bearings are dry, so let's see. We need to do the inner one first, so we can put our seal back in. Which our inner one's going to be the larger one, and our outer one's going to be the small one. So when you pack bearings, come over here. Make sure your hands are somewhat clean. Don't have any. They can have grease on them. Just don't want any dirt, debris, metal, anything like that. I literally just take my hand in the grease and put it in your palm. Take your bearing, and you're literally going to slap the bearing into the grease. You're going to push the grease down into the bearing. That packs it. That pushes that grease up into these cracks up into there. Do it on both sides. Try not to splatter grease on my camera. Go around the whole bearing. If this was my boat, which I just did on my boat, I would replace the whole hub. It's much easier to just replace the whole hub, and it's really not that much more money. Then once you go around it all the way, take your bearing on the side and smack the sides of it into the grease. That packs it in to the sides. And it should come out looking something like that. As you can see, it's all down in that crack in that seal. It's all the way. You can see the grease inside each one of those bearings, which is what you want. And it's packed all the way around this seal. So that bearing's packed. We're gonna put a little bit of grease inside here on that race. Drop our bearing in. sure she's turning smooth. And then while we're here with our grease covered hands, we're going to pack our other bearing for the outside. Not replacing the races on this one. It didn't need it. It really doesn't need bearings, but we're doing them. And these old bearings, if you want, you can actually throw them in your truck in case you blow one out on the road and you got a spare. Flip over, do the same thing. And pack the walls in. Alright, as you can see, grease is all done in there. It's packed into the groove on both sides. That bearing's packed, so we're going to set it right there. Now, I'm going to go clean my hands. Alright, hands somewhat clean, not quite all the way. Now we're going to push our seal in. Make sure I don't have towels here. Make sure our edge is clean of any debris. We want a little bit of grease inside that seal so it goes in a little easier. Make sure she fits. It's the right one. Find my hammer. Actually, I'd like to use a big socket on that if I can find one big enough. I don't know if I got one that big. See, that's not quite big enough because it's sitting on the rubber. I don't want it to sit on that. So we're just going to tap this one in on the edge. And you hear that? That's my hammer hitting the seal and the hub at the same time, which means it's flush. There you go. That side's done. Now we're going to come back over here, clean this again since it was just face down on my workbench. Like I said, you don't want any junk down in there. Make sure that race is good and clean. We'll throw a little bit of grease in there on that race. I might try to scoop out some of that old grease real quick. Hang on. You're never going to get all of it unless you put it in the parts washer, but you try to get some of it out. sure your hands are always staying clean. Otherwise, you're doing all this for nothing. You get a piece of metal, like I said, piece of metal, piece of dirt. Anything in those bearings can screw this up for you. Okay, now we're going to put our new bearing in. Oops, almost forgot our grease that we just wiped out. Grease that race a little bit. I'm going to throw a handful of grease down in that spindle. We're going to grease them again when we get done, but that'll work. Layer new one in there. Nice and smooth. Now this hub's ready to go back on. Be careful carrying it because the outer one can fall out. Let's go check our spindle out and see if it needs any cleaning. Okay, we got still got some old grease on our spindle, so we're gonna clean that off the best we can. If you want to use parts cleaner or something, you can. All right, and then we just slide our new one on. Find that lip. There it is. Make sure it's seated all the way on. The bearings all the way in. No up and down movement, which there is a little bit right there. There we go. Now we're all the way in. No up and down movement. We're going to clean off our washer. Actually got a nick in it right there. Not sure what caused that, what that's from. Might be from the factory. Put our washer on. I'm going to clean off our nut. We're going to take this over to the bench actually and do a good clean on it, because you could have junk down in threads or anything. Hit it with a little brake cleaner. And I just found that in there. A little tiny chunk of metal. I know what it's from. have no idea. Get a little pick and clean all this out really good. I'm just going to take this pick through here. Spectrum. I don't even have Spectrum. There's another piece of metal. I don't know if you can see it. It's right there. Trying to get it to focus. There's a piece of metal right there. It's hanging on that nut. I think that's where his problem was at. I don't know if this one came with. It did not come with a new nut. Alright, this nut is all chewed up. I'm not sure you can see it or not, but the threads, can't get that thing to focus. The threads, and you can see up here on top, up in here, these are all chewed up. Threads are all chewed up down here, especially right here. You can really see. See, it won't even, my pick won't even slide through that. He's gonna have to get a new nut. I don't think I have one, but I'll check. Alright, so we're gonna throw this old one back on there, even though it's chewed up, and then have to order a new one for now. Sorry, have to order a new one for now, because like I said, this thing's all gouged up down in there. See big chunks out of it. So we'll put it back together and see what happens. We'll have to get a new nut, but you'll get the gist of how this went back together. Bearings back in, hubs back on, washers on, everything's been greased. We're gonna see that nut's even hanging up a little bit going on. When I put these on, I torque them down a little bit, pretty tight. See, I can't even spin that much. That's just seating that seal up against the back side of the axle. Torque it down a little bit, just roughly, then back it off. You want to be able to spin it. Make sure it's not going anywhere, no up and down, no side to side. You want it to be turning freely, but not so tight that it Won't turn. That's pretty good right there. I can maybe go a little bit looser. You don't want to go too loose. It's pretty loose right there. Let's get it set in the right spot and get your. You gotta get your calcium nut lined up for your cotter pin. And I don't think they gave me a new one of those either. What a joke. Okay. Okay, so I had a bag of trailer bearing parts. We got a new cotter pin to go in. Alright. Not too tight, not too loose. Throw our cotter pin down in there. Take our pair of dikes. If I can get a hold of it. Maybe. Bend it one up. Not into your bearing. Up against that. You can cut the other one, or you can bend it up too. It doesn't really matter. I usually just tap it up like that and get them both out of the way. That way both your ends are up like that. Everything's running smooth. Alright, let's do our bearing buddy. Same thing going on as going off. You have a new bearing buddy here. Fits on just like that. There's a little bit of grease already inside that lip. So we just tap it on. You could hear the change of when it all got seated, the change in how it sounded. Alright. We're going to squirt some grease in there. It's got a grease fitting right here. Pump it full of grease. You don't want to put too much on it, you'll blow the seal out the back. But we're going to pump it until, let's show you that, then we'll be done. I use the Lucas Oil Red and Tacky. Seems like pretty good grease. I use it in a lot of stuff. Mowers, trucks, boats. They got a marine kind. Throw it on, start pumping. If you watch, you can see, maybe you can see, that inside bearing start pushing its way out. And as soon as there's pressure on that spring, which it's got plenty of pressure on it now, then you take your gun off. That's it, we're done. Throw your cap on, push it in the middle, it gets the air out of there and it suctions on, it won't come off. All done.